a little after 6, so call the meeting to order for January 11th. Let's start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Warrants and bills have been signed. Agenda approval.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Great, thank you. Minutes of the meeting.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of January 4th.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Just an announcement that the transfer station will be closed for Martin Luther King Day on January 16th. Yeah, I assume that will be posted on the website?
Already posted on the website.
Terrific,
Robin,
and-
there's a sign at the gate.
Sign at the gate? Terrific, thank you. Town Administrator's Weekly Update.
We're going to table that based on the presentation.
Oh, yes, well, wait a minute, actually, I believe we're going to Jason first.
Yes, but that's why you asked me to table a couple of the items on there.
Okay.
Should be marked.
Jason? Yep, I understand you'd like to go first, so.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
How you guys doing?
Good.
So last week I gave you guys this little spreadsheet of some of the neighboring towns and the fees that they are charging. What my office or what we are looking to do is just do an adjustment with the cost per the building fee schedule. So just the cost per thousand. When somebody comes in for an application, we have a $25 flat rate application fee. And then, as of right now, we do our building fees for residential is $4 per thousand and $6 for commercial. I'm asking the select board to consider upping the fees to $6 for residential per thousand and $8 for commercial. And that's kind of going in board with a lot of the neighboring towns. I'm not looking to change anything else. Well, I lied. I'm looking to remove, as the old fee schedule had a non-refundable fee of 25% of the estimated total fees is due and payable at the time of application. I don't want to receive any money until somebody comes in. I want the full amount. I don't want to be responsible for juggling money. You know, did he come in and pay, or did I receive this? I would rather receive the full amount when the permit is picked up. That's how I've been doing it, it just, no confusion.
Permit is picked up or permit is issued, is that what you're saying?
When the permit is issued, and it's not, well, they have to come in, I issue the permit, they sign off on it, fee is due at that point, I go over the conditions, and it's just easier for me. That way, I know that I didn't take this money from this person, or they didn't give me 50% and not 25.
Okay.
And so but the biggest thing is to try to offset. We removed electrical permits, we removed mechanical permits for gas and stuff like that, and try to, with that revenue, bring the building fees up just a little bit.
You're right in line with all the other.
Yeah, and if somebody comes in, as of right now, I had an individual come in, wanted to build a really large single-family house, and on his application, he put $100,000. And it's a $450,000 house. You have to go with market value. Yeah. So there's the ICC gives you a list of different fee schedules of what a finished rate would look like. So then you have to readjust that, and that's something that I do internally. But when somebody comes in and gives you an adequate or appropriate estimate, then I'd like to go with the $6 or the $8, whatever it is. So what I gave you guys is a draft, and those are the three changes. One was a strikeout, and one was...
What was the strike? I'm sorry.
The 25%.
This document or something?
No.
Right there to
You
your
have
right.
one right
What
there.
the hell is it?
Right to your right.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, there's a yellow highlight. So let me give you this one too, because this is the old fee schedule. So this shows you what was there, and I just wanted that removed because, like I said, I don't want to be responsible for juggling money. I want the full amount up when the permit's issued.
Got it. All right. I have a few questions before I go in. Thank you for doing this, by the way.
Yeah,
this comparison
it
by
looks
town.
incomplete.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask
My assistant was out for 3 days last week, and you guys got that, and I didn't have the time to call all the neighboring towns. So what we did was we went online, what we could find online. I did call Waterboro and Shapley and got the fees that they had.
Yeah.
So some of the other towns, they don't have the lake, the waterfronts that we have, so they don't have all these shoreline fees.
It did look, if Shapley, is Shapley fully represented in this?
Yes, I talked to Mike on that one, so their fees are in there, yes.
Not just Shapley, but other towns. It looked as though we had a number of fees that other towns don't
Yeah.
have.
And I have no
And-
problem looking at those over if you guys want to really sit down and talk that, but my intentions were just to change, at this time, was just to change
No,
the.
I appreciate that. I guess if you could contact the other towns and complete this.
Sure. Yeah.
Personally, I would like to come back
Yeah.
and take a look at this at a
Yeah.
future date, and just, if there are, if they're in line, great.
Yeah.
If they need to be changed,
Yeah.
change it.
Yeah.
Or if we have fees that no one else has, why are we doing that?
Right,
Just,
and,
you know,
and as you know, I didn't set these fees, these were made by the previous
No, I
code
appreciate
officer,
that,
so-
yeah.
We started doing that, I think it was a couple of years ago when
Yeah, we looked at it.
we had Mr. Gilpatrick come in, we started going through the electrical and the mechanical. That's one reason why we got rid of those. 'cause at the time,
Okay,
we were
all right. So let's have this be a
Yeah.
continuous.
Sure,
project
I'll
and
have,
try to-
I'll have,
Try to
the-
review them and,
I'll have Dave go through and call these towns, because I know he tried getting in touch with Newfield. They have some
that's fine. Yeah,
difficult hours, you know, they work like a couple days a week sometimes, and
okay,
so I'll have them reach out and just try to complete that as much as possible.
very good.
All right?
Thank you. So we need a motion?
Oh,
So,
yeah, we're gonna make a motion.
Are you looking to motion to approve the 3 changes as
Yes.
presented tonight?
Yes,
And then work on the rest?
yeah.
Okay, great.
So we're gonna, you wanna strike off the $25, the
25%,
25% fee up front,
yeah.
and we're gonna go from $6,
We're gonna go from 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
and 6 to
and
8.
6 to 8, okay. I make a motion that we get rid of the 25% up front. Approve the $6 per thousand residential, $8 per thousand for commercial.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Now, just clarity, it's not just commercial, it's multifamily, so we're
Multifamily, yes.
motioning to accept it as presented.
Yes.
Clear?
Yeah, that's great.
Sorry.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, guys.
So we'll prepare one for your signatures next week.
Great. Okay. Just a moment, give me a second. I'd like to introduce Cheyenne Irby, who is joining us today from a firm called Veritas, excuse me. Which is a firm that, one of 2 firms that has submitted a bid to perform basically a facilities assessment of town facilities. And actually, I'm going to turn it over to Cheyenne. He can explain better what this is. But you actually have done a fair amount of work in Maine. You've got something going on in New Hampshire tomorrow. And
Yep, tomorrow
So they do
we're-
a lot of this work in the New England area, actually nationwide. You're a nationwide firm. So we're considering that bid, and we wanted to make sure there was an opportunity for everyone to hear firsthand what this project is all about. It's something the town has never done. So with that, Cheyenne?
Thank you very much, Tom.
You bet.
Like Tom said, the town put out a public RFP to do a facility condition assessment. For those of you who don't know, a facility condition assessment is a technical engineering assessment to evaluate the needs of a building. What are the capital expenses are you going to have to spend over the next 5, 10, 15 years? And we create a roadmap for that. Let me go ahead. Like Tom introduced me as Cheyenne Irby. I'm Associate Vice President of Bureau Veritas. With Kalstib Chabatswar, he couldn't be here to join me. He is about to give birth to a baby girl within the next couple hours. So good news to him. Hopefully, when I return, I'll be meeting a new little baby. But Calstib will be, if we are lucky enough to get this project, Calstib will be the project manager who will be running this project. He's responsible for energy and capital planning within our company. And he works with a lot of municipal clients, state of, city of, school district of, and I'll be overseeing the general executive contracting of the project. A little bit about Bureau Veritas. We're a 200-year-old company. We have always been in the business of data information. So you see, we work in multiple fields: oil and gas, power utilities, building and infrastructure. In all those fields, we only deal in information in order to provide our clients with decision intelligence. So arm them with information on what they're going to do about their buildings when they grow up, kind of thing. So my division, we live up in the top hand right corner. That's the building and infrastructure division. So that division, we solely deal with institutional clients. Those are school districts, universities, towns, states, the federal government. These are all people who aren't about real estate transactions. These are all people who own real estate, and they need to understand, how am I going to put aside money, and how am I going to plan to maintain these facilities over the next couple of years? And that's what we do. Just a little bit of, I like to call this the wheel, the real estate life cycle wheel. So everything that has to do with maintaining facilities, we touch. So if a client is to buy a facility, we'll do an assessment and tell them what are the red flags associated with that facility. If clients are wanting to keep this facility going, we go in there and we tell them, hey, what are the code deficiencies? Are there any ADA issues? Anything to keep a facility running, that's what we deal with. I mentioned, so I'm an architect, Calstib up there, he was an engineer. And everybody who works for us are architects and engineers. But a big distinction I want to make with our firm is we are not an engineering or architecture firm. The reason why that's a big distinction is because we are a third-party, non-biased entity that represents the best interests of our clients. So when you get an assessment with an architecture firm or an engineering firm, that firm is doing assessments for the purpose of, hey, we want to design a follow-on work. My firm, we only deal in information, and we do not have follow-on work. We only want to give you information, and that's it. So that keeps us one step away from being inclusion of anything that might come into play that's that kind of keeps our hands clean, because we want to turn information over to you for you to make the decisions. The project that the town put out, the RFP, this is how we understood it. It's a facility condition assessment. So what that means is we're going to look at all the deficiencies associated with your buildings. We're going to look at your deferred maintenance. Everybody has deferred maintenance. You've been pushing off replacing the roof this many years. You've been pushing off repairs this many years. We're going to take a look at that. And we're going to kind of put a box around it and try to put a price tag on how much it's going to cost you in the long run to keep deferring. Because if you keep deferring, the problem's still going to arise. So we want to demonstrate to the town and to the citizens, this is how much it's costing you if you keep deferring. We also want to create a roadmap of, here are all your short-term deficiencies and needs. So that's everything from code compliance to ADA to safety issues. That's going to be things that you need to take care of immediate needs in the next 1-2 years. And then we're going to prioritize that list for you, and then we're going to present it to you in a fashion that it's consumable and gives you a good overview. We're also going to do a long-term needs. We're going to look at, hey, these are going to be big expenses that are coming up in the next 10 years, 15 years. Either you need to put together a plan to accommodate that, or you need to put in place some kind of modernization plan that will accommodate those long-term needs. Everything that has to do with mechanical equipment, we're going to inventory and give you a mechanical list for that. And we're going to attach conditions to every one of those things. So we're going to look at the boilers, and we're going to say, this is in poor condition, this is in fair condition, this is the reasons why those are in poor and fair condition. And we're going to attach costs to those, estimated costs for replacement of those for like, or we're going to have a discussion with you if you want to modernize, if you want to go from, I don't know, an oil-fired boiler to natural gas or wood-fired condensing boiler. We'll discuss those modernization needs with you. So costs associated for like replacement, or costs associated with like for modernization needs. And then we're going to do a planning exercise with the town, and where there's going to be a lot of data points, there's going to be a lot of replacements, and we're going to help you prioritize those based off what are the immediate needs, what are the town's goals, and we're going to kind of flex things around in order to create a prioritized list. That leads into the capital forecasting. We're going to attach prices to all that, and we're going to tell you in year 8, this is what it's going to cost to do this, year 7, so on, so on, so on. We're also going to do an FCI benchmark. That's a facility condition index. And what that is a comparison of where all your buildings rank up next to each other. And what that is, it's a total replacement cost of all the needs associated with the building over the replacement value, the current replacement value of a building. So kind of look at it as your car. There's a point in your car where there are so many maintenance costs and so many repairs that it out amounts the cost of the car altogether. So at that point, you're like, is it even worth reinvesting in? And so that's what that FCI index is going to give you a good idea. What is the level of reinvestment that you want to take for all your buildings, and it compares it all together. And we're going to process all this and deliver it to you in a database, so you can easily query and search through all our data points.
Will that database reside on a machine here, or will it be a hosted system?
It's hosted in the cloud, and the town has access to as many users as they want. There's no hosting fees. It's automatically included with our service. We started doing that because a typical facility condition assessment, we give you a report, and then you get the big Excel table, and that's hard to consume because it's so many data points, you just can't consume it. And so we started delivering it in databases, so you have the opportunity to query all the data. You can prioritize the data yourself. And once we finish the service, we'll sit there with you and we'll teach you how to use the database. And everything in the database can be exported into Excel, because we still know a lot of people like using Excel and they like manipulating and stuff like that. And so it's a exportable database.
The scope of the assessment,
Mhm.
it includes all the major building components, electrical, plumbing,
Yes.
foundation,
Let's-
roof. I'm sorry, if you're
No,
still
let's-
gonna get there.
no, let's
that's
skip-
fine, but I
let's
just
skip
wanna
it.
Make sure I understand.
Yeah, I like it when it's like this. So let's jump over. So when it comes to the assessment itself, what we do is it's basically, I like to call it an engineering level audit. So what we do is we break down the building into all its component parts. So let's take finishes or a building envelope. We break it down to the windows, the doors, all the way down to the siding, and we group that into conditions. So say we'll take this room right here. We'll take these windows and we'll call them fair. But say on the other side, maybe you replaced those windows like last year. We'll take those windows and we'll categorize them as good. And then we'll say there is 15 more estimated useful life of those windows, and we'll say there's maybe 2 more years of life in these windows. So, and then we'll build a roadmap of when you're going to need to replace those windows. So when it comes, are you guys familiar with a uniformat? So uniformat it was invented by the Corps of Civil Engineers, and it's a way to organize systems. So at the top level, you have a site, and then you go down to heating, and then you go all the way down to what type of heating, and then you go down to the individual component level. So we go down to uniformat component level 4. So what that is the individual component level. So the boiler. We go down to the boiler level. Other assessment firms, what they do is they do something called a modeled engineering assessment. So what that is say you're replacing the HVAC equipment in a building, and the building is 5,000 square feet. What they'll say is, okay, your building's 20 years old, the HVAC is up for replacement, based off a square footage cost, this is the total replacement for your HVAC. We don't do that. We break down the HVAC equipment all to its component parts. So the boiler, the distribution, heat exchanger, and then we tally that whole cost up. So it gives you a much more concrete number for replacement than just a general replacement cost.
How old is this building? It's over 100 years? 1830, so we've got a very old building. And your assessment, would it consider structural integrity and the useful life of that?
Yeah, definitely. So we do.
That's a concern in any old building like this.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, typically a building has, what, 75, maybe 100 years if you really press it.
Yep, yep.
And this one's over that. That doesn't mean they don't live, very well beyond that, but it's an issue that I thought about when I look at the facility. Structurally, is this gonna serve our needs for the next 20 years?
Yeah, great question. So we're doing a project right now for State of Vermont Department of General Services, where we're looking at all state-owned buildings, and a good chunk of those state-owned buildings, are town halls, city halls, courthouses that are 200 plus years old, and we are evaluating the structural integrity of the building. Is it safe to be occupied? We have discovered that there are some buildings that aren't safe to be occupied, and so we do count that as an immediate concern. We tell the state, you're going to have to think about something, think about this building. You're going to have to think about moving operations out of this building. But structural integrity associated with historical properties is something we definitely look at. We look at the foundation, we look at building structure, building envelope, as well as just overall integrity of the building in general. And I don't know off the top of my head if you have any properties that are historic, but we have a separate costing database that we associate with historical properties. So when it comes to a lot of the windows, when it comes to exterior, we have to use a separate historically approved costing database that takes into account those needs. And so if that's the case within your building.
Or any other buildings on the historical which is not part of it.
Oh, you put certain bill, I thought it was all town buildings.
Well, I mean, it all depends on what you think is historic, and it doesn't have to be a registry to, people think that.
That's what I'm getting at.
This
Are they on
place
the
may be
registry?
historic.
Town
It
building,
is?
yeah.
Okay.
So in the gray zone areas, we err on the cost, we err on caution, because it's better to overestimate than to underestimate. And so any buildings that are historically significant, we'll definitely do a separate costing associated with that.
So coming out of this, I assume there would be identification of what the deficiencies are today, what they're gonna, how those are gonna grow.
Yes.
And only get worse. And, how much funding we need over.
Hmm?
Address these
Mhm.
So it creates a long-term capital budget for the town.
Exactly. So that's what this exercise is really all about. This, a facility condition assessment is an exercise in capital planning. Because you don't want something, if a boiler goes out or something big goes out, that's a big cost that you need to plan for. And of course, if you plan on occupying a building for the next, 5, 10, 20 years, you're gonna have to be sure that the needs of that building are gonna be accommodated in order for you to occupy that building. We also have, a lot of towns also use our assessments for justification of other needs. So I was talking to you about town at Exeter. We're doing a facility condition assessment for them, and they have a couple buildings where they want to demonstrate to the public that there are so many needs and there's such a large amount of capital costs associated with this building. It's going to be a 1950s office building that the town occupies. That there's so many needs associated with this building that it's better that we just get it out of our portfolio and build a new building. And so that's one of the goals that they're trying to get. Not only to get a roadmap of the needs associated with their building, but also use it as justification for planning purposes. And that's one of the goals, because that's one of the goals where the FCI comes into play. That's where they're demonstrating this junker car is just so past its life. No matter how many times we change out the parts, it's not worth the investment anymore.
Are you also making any assessment about the extent to which the current facility is functionally appropriate for its uses?
So we call that a space utilization analysis. That's not part of this assessment. What the space utilization analysis is so we're actually doing that for Boston Public Schools. And what that is there is a state mandate that says you're using this space for public use, public hearings. Based off your population, you're required to have this many square feet, and the current real estate that you have, the current square footage you have, doesn't meet that. So it's kind of like a exercise, a gap analysis. What do you currently have, based off what you need, based off the state mandate of what you're needing. And so we didn't include that in that assessment, but that's something that we can certainly do.
Does anyone else have any questions? Public have any comment or questions?
How long does it take you to do your assessment, like all the buildings?
So a rule of thumb is one assessor can get through about 45 to 50,000 square feet in a day. If it's a more complex building, or if it's a historical property, add another 10,000, 15,000 square feet. So for what you had in your portfolio, it would take one of our engineers and one of our architects roughly 3 to 4 days to get through the whole town. And it's a non-invasive visual assessment, so we're not drilling into walls.
Well, that's my next question.
Yeah, we're not drilling into walls and seeing what's behind there. It's what we can see. Of course, we're gonna pop our heads up into this little thing, see what the insulation is like that, see what the if it's structurally sound up there. But we're not sewer scoping. So when it comes to not stuff that we can't see, what we're gonna do is we're gonna send the town, we're gonna send them something called a pre-survey questionnaire. And we're only out here for a couple days. You guys are out here all year round. So something that happens like in the rainy season might not happen when we're here. And same thing like in the summer, because you know buildings breathe and move. And so you guys will know what's happening in the seasons that we're not here. So anybody with the most historical knowledge of the properties, we'd want them to go through that pre-survey questionnaire, answer it, and it helps steer our assessment. And then before when we get here, we certainly want to sit with your maintenance guys, and we want to sit with them for an hour. And anybody with the most historical knowledge about the buildings, we want to get that knowledge from them. And just to say, hey, how does this building, what are the problems associated with this building? Is this building structurally unsound? Is it under-insulated? Along those lines. And then we take that into account when we're writing our reports.
Well, that was the question I had. Is like, so you just look at a building and say, okay, this is, constructed around 1950. Would you assume what the insulation values of what those are, or you don't scope anything?
We definitely want to, like, where we can poke our heads into. We want to poke our heads in to see what the insulation value is. If there are any, there probably aren't any building plans, but if there are, we would like to see the newest, best ones, and we'll extrapolate off that. Anything else?
Any other comments or questions?
Oh, I got one more.
Yeah.
So like, if you give your estimate, I just lost my question. Never mind.
Are you talking? Are you leaning toward like costs, where we come up with a cost?
So like, you give your evaluation, you give it to the town, and then like, do you guys just like jump ship and you're all done, or do you like do you help us out with like?
Help them go out to bid and figure out how to
Stuff like
fix it
that.
and.
Yeah. So once we give the town its reports, we give them all the access to the database. We're always available there for consulting needs. And we give them all a recommendation. We give it to the town, and we're like, all right, here's our recommendations.
At that point, it's up to us to hire.
What do you,
hire
like?
people to
Yeah,
come
this
in.
is where the town has the the coming to Jesus moment. What do our buildings want to be when they grow up, kind of thing. And so it's like, okay, this building has this much needs. What do we want to do with this building? In this report, it's saying we're going to have to do this, this, and this. We're going to have to replace the roof. We're going to have to replace maybe some structural stuff. We're going to have to replace this, this, and this. And so it's where the town has to decide what do we want to do based off the town's goals. Because we don't want, that's where our non-bias, that's where it ends. Because we don't want to influence what you guys want to do. We just give you the raw data.
Is the data, is it easily interpreted, or is it something that you have to sit with us for a couple days so that we get the scope of what's going on? Or?
Yeah, it's pretty easily interpreted. We'll give you a report. In that report, will be broken out into systems, plumbing, HVAC, building envelope, so on. And we will give you verbiage of what we've observed in there. And then we'll break down. This is a summary of all the needs associated with buildings. So we'll give you a high level. Here's the total amount of needs associated with the buildings, and here's every year how much you're going to have to spend every year to maintain that building. We'll break that down into its needs. This is hard to read, but basically what it is we have listed out every single asset. So exterior door, roof, gutters, interior finishes, vinyl floor. We go down to that detail, and for every single asset, we give you what's its lifespan, what's its remaining useful life, what's the observed life, because we don't just do arithmetic. Because it was installed in 2000 doesn't make it 23 years old. We take into account the maintenance associated with that. So say you have a boiler and it's been a really well-maintained boiler, we'll take into account the maintenance that's associated with that boiler, and we'll give you a credit for that maintenance. So say the boiler was installed in 2000, it's been well maintained, we'll say its estimated useful life is 15 years, not 23 years. So we gave it a credit. So that's really what you're buying, is that engineering analysis based off what we're observed. So, and of course, then we give you the quantity, and we give you the costs to replace that. So the cost not only includes the cost of the piece of equipment itself, but it also includes the work associated with replacing with that piece of equipment. So the cost to remove it, the cost for the engineering, drawings that you may need to associate with bringing in a new boiler or something.
So it's total project cost.
It's a total project cost. And then, and so let me talk about cost for a minute. So people ask us where we get our costs, because it's a mix of, everybody knows RS means, it's a foundation of RS means, and it's also a foundation of CBRE's Whitestone. RS means is really good at estimating component costs, so what the material cost of something, but they're not really good associating labor. So we do a separate database for labor. And then we also have Bureau Veritas. We have a construction management division that we do monitor construction all across the country. And so we overlay real-time costs that we see in a region based off our experience. So that is a regional overlay. So something in Exeter is not going to cost the same as something in San Antonio, Texas. And so we put that regional cost in there. And then what we do is, after we give you all these costs, we want to sit there with you and we want to review, what did you pay for in the last 5 years? Because we do know, like a lot of municipalities, they have contracts with local vendors, in particular roofing or flat work for like resealing the parking lots and stuff like that. They'll have contracts and they'll have a special cost associated with that. So we'll have a discussion with you, and we'll calibrate this costing library, because the whole goal, like I said, this is a capital planning exercise, and we want to make the capital plan as accurate as possible. This is money. We don't want to overestimate, but we certainly don't want to underestimate. So we want to try to get to true as possible. And so moving on from the cost. We go on to when does that piece of component need to be replaced, and we'll create a reserve term for you from year 1 to year 20. And then say we're looking at your exterior doors and they're not in good condition, we'll put that in maybe immediate needs, and we'll put that in year 2 or 3. And then we'll present this to you. And this is where we'll have the back and forth. We'll sit down with the town, and we're like, okay, here's the draft reserve term plan. Here's when everything's needed to be replaced. How does this look to you? And then we also want to calibrate that with the town's master plan. So if the town plan is planning to do a roofing projects for all the properties, we may want to move that earlier into the reserve plan from when we have it. So based off the town's goals, we'll move these back and forth a little bit to calibrate with what your goals are. But this gives us a great starting point.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this. I think we've got a good idea of your proposal. If there are no further questions, I want to thank you for coming out here tonight.
Yeah.
I understand you have another client tomorrow, so it wasn't just a trip to see us. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no
It's
worries.
been very, very informative, and we have to consider this and discuss it amongst ourselves, and I'm sure we'll get public input on that, and we'll be sure to get back.
Yeah, you want me to stick around and need to talk to anybody afterwards?
No, I think we're all set tonight. We've got some more items on the agenda, so I don't think anyone is going to be wanting to talk further about this tonight.
All right, I'll leave a couple.
Just email me the presentation.
I certainly will, and I'll leave you a couple business cards in case someone needs to call me,
Yeah.
and I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you.
I'll take him out. Want to go back to old business?
Yeah, thank you.
live camera running,
Okay,
Have a good night.
Skip the
Thank you.
town budget timeline. Budget.
yeah,
So we
Yeah.
skipped those two right there.
so we did skip the news.
Well, I'd say so, because we just did the
Yeah,
facilities.
okay, we're gonna go back to old business? Okay, great. We've covered the land use fees, I think we've covered everything up to this point. Do you have a copy of this? Okay, budget,
Well, this one
I
right
think
here.
I've got another one
here you
anyways,
go, all right?
I believe.
This is the updated one.
We've, the board has drafted a budget policy that tries to lay out more clearly exactly where responsibility rests within the town for the management of town funds, basically the operating budget. And it clarifies the role of the selectmen, who ultimately have responsibility for the stewardship and management of town resources, but also clarifies the role of the department heads in that process, along with the treasurer. And it's been incorporated in a document here. Is this the first time we disclosed this?
so. I know, we
Has it
discussed
been-
it last
But it
week.
hadn't been posted yet, had it?
Nope.
Okay. You know, I think, given that it hadn't been posted yet, what I'd like to do is, my fellow selectmen are comfortable, is sort of accept this tonight and post it on the website so that we can put it on our next agenda for discussion. I, by the way, am not going to be here for 2 weeks, so it will probably be sometime around the 1st of February.
So you don't want to accept it?
Yeah, I would prefer to just,
that'd be
you know, let the public see it, and if there are any issues, let's get those comments in before we,
So you want to
before
get
we.
it on the website first?
You get it on the website, it'll be out there, people can look at it, and we'll put it on our next agenda. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Next
Wonderful.
agenda in February.
Yes,
When you get
thank you.
back.
Okay. Budget timeline.
Okay, so as we were in the process of passing these out, the treasurer does have all the budget sheets printed for the various departments and committees. There were some conversations that arose regarding the Saturday workshop.
Yes.
It's been done differently a few times over the years. So I kind of spoke to department heads, I spoke to a couple of the selectmen, I spoke to the chair of the Warren and Finance, and really what it comes down to is, do we need to get together on that Saturday as a joint effort between the board and the budget committee, or the Warren and Finance, sorry, I'm using my Shapley language. If the Warren and Finance is going to just in turn bring them in one-on-one to get a little more information and go through it. And if that's the case, do we really need to do the Saturday? So I think it's my recommendation, after speaking to the selectmen, and also Dennis seemed to support it, that we cancel the Saturday meeting. The budgets are due February 17th. Once we get them in, we can turn those over to the Warren and Finance. The selectmen will be working on the draft warrant, but certainly they can meet with the departments and go over the budgets if they so choose. Doesn't mean that it's all gonna show up on the warrant, but it would prevent, doing the same thing twice.
That's right.
Yeah, because usually that's when it's happening, we end up discussing the same thing over and over.
Right.
And it wastes, a department head comes in for 15 minutes and wastes half their Saturday. So, at the end of the day, if they're meeting with the finance committee, we meet with them anyways. It is what it is.
So the only change to that, this removes the Saturday, and it also shifts, I gave the Warren and Finance as much time as possible. They had a couple of due dates on Friday, I actually moved them to the following Tuesday. And then it's got town meeting on Saturday, June 10th, not Father's Day weekend, the election being the following Tuesday. So this will be our first time that we're gonna do them in the reverse order.
Okay?
Check with council and review, and there are no concerns with how that's happening.
Any other comments from people? Sounds like, any public comment about this? Okay, I don't think we need to take a motion on this, but just
Nope, we'll
adopt it.
distribute it tomorrow to the
Sounds
department
like
heads.
we're all in
and-
agreement, and maybe one of those things that at one point had a purpose, but it's sort of outlived its purpose, so
Yes, actually, one other thing, I'm sorry, Tom.
We've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just got redundant, but we need to, so with this timeline, more to the social services, not so much the department heads and the committees, but we need a cover letter that's going to these social services. So I did get a couple of items from Dennis, I'm looking to get a couple items from you. When they're sending back their budget requests, what is it you want to see from these social services? For example, one of the things that we mentioned was the amount of Acton residents they serve, a list of financials for their previous fiscal year. Is there anything else specifically that we're gonna say, listen, submit A, B, and C, or we're not gonna consider your request?
Well, I think, for me personally,
I'm not a big fan of how many people they serve, because we had one that we gave to that served one individual up in Lewiston, so, the Red Cross, if we don't have a house fire or something in the town, if they don't do anything in town for a year, should we not give to them? We probably should. So, I think the best thing for them to do is, send their packet of what they offer the area.
What services are offered to the town?
The area.
yeah.
The-
You know,
the- okay,
because,
what
like I
services?
said, the Red Cross, obviously, we still use the,
York County.
Hollaback and the York County Community Action and all that, it really doesn't matter the exact number, because if you just have that one, we feel obligated at that point, so.
And what type of financials, Tom, what is a good line of
I don't
summing
know.
it up?
I think some of these are really small amounts.
Right.
And I'm not sure a financial statement helps out all that much, for me anyways. I don't know how
You take
others
the
get-
Red Cross, we're gonna get their
Yeah,
financial statement.
Yeah, it's like,
I know,
gee,
but we don't wanna get to town meeting and, or
No,
make.
and I appreciate that. I think it is it's primarily, I think of the lake associations in particular that, receive a fair amount of resource from the town. I think understanding what they're doing for the town is important. There are boat inspections, there are, runoff programs that mitigate runoff. I think understanding how many people they're touching in our community, in the lake area, or people, accessing our lakes, I think that's incredibly important. I suppose to ask for, Dennis, you said you got comments from Dennis? Before I go off on a tangent, did you have anything, what are you looking for, given your experience with this?
Finance committee.
Yeah, Finance Committee, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's like I told Jen today, the only two things I believe the warrant finance committee wanted to see was the financial statements from the organizations, and how many people they served in the town.
Yeah, that's right.
There's some smaller organizations, for example, that we've been giving money to for quite a while, and some of it was supposed to be, it was said that it was to benefit specifically the town of Acton, this amount of money, and I don't want to really get into the details of it right now because I don't think it's, and there's questions of where is this money, and we've been giving it for several years now, and why isn't it been done? And so this is where the financial statements, if people don't have them, they don't have them, but I'm just passing on what the Warren Finance Committee
Asking them
wanted.
to clarify, what services or work they're doing in the town is important.
One thing I'd like to see, I know a lot of people that I know, and it's like when I go to Dunkin' Donuts, okay, I drive up the drive-thru, can you give $1 to whatever?
Yeah,
I'll give my $1, but the next time I probably won't, because I already did, but I'd like to know how much of this money is actually going towards a certain, like, the Red Cross, that was a big thing with the Red Cross, when we had town meeting one year, the one reason they knocked it down is because supposedly they only give a third of that money actually goes towards victims.
A lot of it was
The rest it's
administrative.
administration.
yeah,
That's stuff that I wanna know.
yeah. I would imagine or I don't recall all that's on that list, but many of those, I suspect most of that money is going into their direct programming for services. But I guess asking for a set of financials is fine, but I think if you're gonna try to trace this money into their financials and think you can see some correlation between that money and the services, it's,
Well, I think
it's
that,
nearly
Just ask.
impossible.
and I
to
think
do
one of the
that.
things that committee, because I was at one of the meetings that they talked about this, and I know which social service, which organization referencing, if it turns out that this organization, you know, has $50,000 and they haven't done the project that they have mentioned a couple of times, I mean, that might be a concern, and off camera, I think
That
you'll
was one
understand.
concern we had with one of the lake associations,
Right.
that there was a bunch of money.
Right.
Nobody knew where
that
the
was-
money was going. As a matter of fact.
And they
it was
weren't
e-
spending it.
And it was even said at one of the members of the finance committee that's part of that association said, I don't know where it's going either. You know, so that was, that
what-
was an issue.
Why don't we ask for those two things?
Right.
And.
Three things.
Why don't we review the material that comes in? If we have questions, we can always call them in and, you know, ask them questions.
Well,
This is
we
what-
used to call them all in.
Oh, really?
You know,
Last year we did not.
We haven't.
We
in a
haven't,
couple of years.
maybe it's time that we keep them honest and bring them in.
I like to think
You know,
that
as a joint group.
anybody that feels that they deserve some money
Yeah?
can come up and make a presentation, and then people can ask.
That's great.
Because I have an issue with the social services, myself, a lot of them, because, you know, because you don't know. You don't know where your money's going. And when you see $60,000 a year going to that stuff, and it's not acting, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, you have concerns, so it'd be nice to be able to say, hey,
Okay.
so what do you really do for us down here?
It's a good place to start.
So-
If we look at it and we have further questions, we could probably
Ask.
prep those agencies with those questions so they can come and talk about it.
So I'll prep a memo, I'll send it to you guys tomorrow, just so you can
Yeah.
proof it, and we'll get it sent out with this
It,
timeline.
it just, so you know, it's the intention of the Warrant Finance Committee at our next meeting to try to set the budget schedule and what meetings we want to talk to whoever, and hopefully they'll have done enough research to say who for the donation part of the warrant, who they want to talk to, because it very well could be people that they don't see any reason to bring them in.
Just remember at your next meeting, which I think is the 6th,
Yeah.
the budgets won't be in yet, and I know we've got some new ones trickling in,
Yeah, that's fine.
so we don't wanna, you know, you may be
I
not be able to.
I was just gonna go off
Off of last
what
year's,
last year's warrant,
Yeah.
and
the town departments and stuff.
sure.
So I'll
And,
be there, I'll
and
help
we
you out.
plan on doing that at our next meeting
Okay,
in
thank you, Dennis.
February. So thank you for this.
Yep, appreciate it.
And before we were talking about finances, I need to do a shout out to the town administrator and the treasurer for the paperwork, the added paperwork that we got for our meeting Monday night. And I thank you very much for that.
Thank you for acknowledging that, by the way. Those two people work extremely hard, and I know you appreciate that, Dennis, but there's a lot going on right now. And so you've got a variety of processes you're in the middle of and trying to respond to what
Yeah.
you're looking for. So thank you to
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Jennifer and the treasurer for their work. Okay, I think we're on to resignations, Jennifer?
Yes, we have a resignation from planning board member Bevan Corbin. It's quite lengthy, but essentially it just basically says that he's taking a full-time position with, as, he serves as a state director for a convention of states and state COS Veteran Coalition, and that's gonna require more time. So he appreciates his time with the board, but unfortunately is not gonna be able to continue.
Okay, do we actually need a motion for that? Okay. How long has he served? Does it say?
Might have to pull his oath,
I was just curious. Well,
a couple of years, I mean,
as part of
One
that,
of our new ones.
as part of that motion is an extension of our appreciation for his efforts to the town.
Absolutely.
These are incredibly important. These are, we're looking for people. for
Yeah,
this
we're already down.
Yeah,
two
we need-
we were down 2 alternates, and now this is a regular member, so if
Very
anybody's
important work that they
interested-
do, so thank you. So can I have a motion for this?
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation,
Mr. Corbin.
Mr. Corbin.
Yep, Bevan.
I'll second that.
with
All in
regret.
favor? Great, thank you.
Anybody out there that would like to be a member of our planning board, we would appreciate it. You know, get a hold of Jen, or either one of us.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
You know, we need 3 members, 2 alternates, 1 full-timer, and a vote member, I guess you wanna call it.
Yeah,
And be much appreciated.
thank you. The all-important poll permit.
Sanborn Road.
You wanna make a motion on that?
Yes.
Wanna make a motion on that, Kim?
All right, so we want to make a motion to accept the poll permit. Poll number 8.2. Do we need to put the person's name or?
No, you can, just the poll numbers.
Just the
fine.
poll
Okay.
number will do it, yeah.
So, yeah, 08.2. So,
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay, so approved. Supplements and abatements.
Okay, so we have a piece of property, I believe it's down near Flat Ground Road area. It might be on Flat Ground Road, but nevertheless, Dad owned the piece of property, owned a 25-acre lot. It was his wish to give his son 5 acres. The assessor misinterpreted the deed, and he gave dear son all 25 acres. Dad wants his 20 acres back, so what this is just a correction, and the names are very similar because they're a senior and junior, but we have reviewed them with Dennis and the tax records. So you're going to first abate Kiem, who is the son, because he's not responsible for all 25 acres, even though he offered to keep it.
Your name is, what was his name? Kian?
The name is Kiem. Abru Rahman Kiem.
Okay, so we're gonna make a motion to accept the abatement
Didn't do the map and lot.
map 227-010-001. Say that again?
The amount to the bottom.
Okay, yeah. Can't see real good tonight, my glasses aren't working. All right, we the Board of Assessors for tax abatement of $36,000 in evaluation and $432.20 in tax dollars.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay.
So we have abated that, so now that we have taken his bill away for 20 acres, we now need to give Dad a supplemental tax bill for the 20 acres that he should have never lost. So supplement and signatures on that one, please.
I'm gonna make a motion to accept a supplement. Does this have the, do I need to do the
Map and lot and the amount.
okay.
This might be easier.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not
So
seeing
it's
that.
tax map 227 lot 10-3, and the supplement is in the amount of $555.68.
Okay, so,
Moved?
so moved.
Second that.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right. Did I need to sign the poll permit, or is that all?
That's, I've
At
got
least
it
2 of
here.
you need
Yeah,
to,
that's what I
yeah.
wanted to
Okay,
know.
so I don't think I signed it.
No,
David
none
did.
of those.
Okay.
Application approved by the town hall. There's this one.
Certificate of supplemental commitment, what the hell is
It's
this?
abatements.
Oh, okay. What is this for in case of neglect? Decided to sign this. Is this relate, this certificate of
That's-
supplement commitment, is that?
That's the supplement, so it tells your tax collector to
Okay.
collect that extra money.
Okay, David? And poll permit requires just 2 of us?
Yes, please.
Okay. There you go. Okay, this next agenda item is something that the board has just been investigating, and I wanted to introduce the topic tonight. The town has a fair amount of cash reserves that are held at Partners Bank.
Correct.
They're held in an account that, in order to, at the bank, of course, FDIC insurance is at a maximum of $250,000. And they have this investment product that allows, that's really a consortium of banks where they take this money and put it in a pool so that individual investments can have multiple $250,000 limits if you're investing more than 250,000. So it's a nice way to make sure your funds are insured if you've got a large amount over and above 250. The current rate of return the town is getting on that is 0.3%. That's about a third of 1 point. Anyone who's been watching what's been happening with the Federal Reserve, they know that interest rates have risen significantly. We contacted the bank to inquire about what other opportunities there may be to invest those monies with a higher return. They apparently at the same time were going through a review of their investment return being offered, and they've offered to increase that to 1.3%. Of course, the interest rates for short-term money, the Fed funds rate, is now above 4%. And that's basically money that is, it can be in like a treasury bill, which can have anywhere from a maturity of a week to 1 year. And these are monies that are invested or backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. That happens to be the same entity that is backing up that FDIC insurance. While FDIC insurance has sort of an insurance fund, if there was a catastrophe, you can be sure that's going to be exceeded. And it's the U.S. government that's going to ultimately back that pledge. So my conclusion is we can go with a retained 1.3% return on our investments, or we could possibly move into something that could get in excess of a 4% return with the same safety, because it's all backed by the U.S. government. And so I've been talking, I happened to call TD Bank, I think of as one of Maine's primary banks, and talk to them about what opportunities they see that we could do for the town. And they had recommended basically constructing a portfolio of us as treasury bills. And they would do it in what's called a laddered structure. Basically, let's say you had $1.2 million that you wanted to invest. They might take 300,000 of that and put it out 1 month, another 300,000 3 months, another 300,000 9 months, and another 300,000 out 12. And when you're doing that, you're on a continuous basis rolling over funds, which makes sure that if you need the money, that you'll have access to the cash. Now, these bonds can be sold early, but our intent would not be to sell the bonds, because if interest rates move, you could make money or lose money. Our intent is to buy them and hold them. And if you hold them to maturity, the U.S. government is guaranteeing that you're going to get all your money back, and you're going to get the earnings. So what we're considering is a portfolio of U.S. Treasury bills, the maturities to be determined. Right now, there isn't a big advantage to going out 12 months. You can do 4.3% with basically 60-day maturities, which is really a pretty decent return compared to what we're getting now. And so I wanted to just bring this forward so that as the board, we can talk about what our interest may be in this. As part of this, the town would need to adopt an investment policy. And this would be a formal policy adopted by the town that would describe what our investment objectives are, which is, in this case, preservation of principal. We don't want to lose any money. And to maximize returns, and to invest in certain securities that have the highest quality. And from my perspective, those are U.S. government securities. I've done a little research, and actually we checked with council. These are allowable investments. They actually say you could invest in state of Maine bonds. And you think about it, as a municipality in the state of Maine, state of Maine is probably a pretty good credit. And I haven't looked at their bonds, but you could possibly get a higher return if they were state of the Maine, short-term maturities. So what we would need to do is adopt a policy that describes, what the investment objectives are, what's the maturity that we would be interested in. What's the maximum amount we might go on? I've been on the web, I've been looking at other towns. I think I got Lewiston's, and I'll share this with you. This is their investment policy. They will not invest in anything beyond 2 years, which for me is, especially where rates are now, I would not want to go that far. I'm hoping we can keep it within no more than 60 to 90 days, based on where rates are today. And then the question is, how much do we invest? And that would require us to take a look at how much we have in cash. Currently, you know, it seems the low point this past year was $4.5 million, $4.7 million, I believe. We're 5, or a few, you know, it was up to 7. And so I'm thinking we look at that low point, understand if there are any special warrants or capital acquisitions that are planned. I'm not sure there are, but we want to look at that and figure out safely what can we afford to put out for 90 days, a maximum of 90 days. And to then turn to TD Bank and have them construct a portfolio based on what we think the cash needs are of the town, and to keep that maturity short so that we don't have to force sell a security before it's due. Now, I'll tell you, even if you did, these securities are probably not going to lose a great deal of money because they got such a short maturity. And in fact, you may make money, but our objective would be never having to do that. We'll simply let them mature, and we can decide whether to roll them over and for how long. So this would take, let's say we had a $4 million number. If we had a 4% return on that, that's $160,000, compared to what we're getting today on that $4 million, which is around $12,000. So it's a big opportunity, I think, for the town to generate some return for as long as we can. I don't know what's going to happen to rates in the future, and it may get better, it may get worse, but I think treasuries are, given the amount of cash we have available now that is beyond our immediate needs, and until we figure out what we're going to do with that, I think this is a good approach to making sure that we can maximize our return on those investments. So let me stop there.
When Tom came to us last week and kind of mentioned to us before the meeting there, his idea, I at first thought, you know, investing our money in this and that gets crazy. I'm not an investor, so I'm not really quite sure how all this works, but as he was telling us about it, the problem we have, and it's a really good problem, because I remember back in the day when the town of Acton was taking loans to pay bills. We're in a spot right now where we have a bunch of money. Now, people can say they're being overtaxed, that's why we got so much money, but between COVID and everything, it's all bundled up to the point where we have this really large general fund, and I'm not one that wants to say, okay, well, we have it, let's go spend it. Because whenever you do that, it ends up snowballing to a situation where now you've spent all this money, you gotta continue spending all that money. And I think we stay in the lane that we're in right now. We're doing our reval. We know there's gonna be some adjustment with our tax rate and all that coming, but with the money that we have in the bank right now, whether or not how much if we decide to do this, how much we invest, I'd be a guy like I don't know, half as much as we have to, whatever, okay? But I think this is a good way to, I don't want to use the word, to disguise the money, but it's there, but it's not there, okay? It's being utilized, but anytime that we need that money, we can get access to that money. We've got to get back to where our general surplus isn't overrunning like it is. And because of such good times and the bad times we had, we've just gone along and let it happen. We're gonna have to make some adjustments, but I really do not want to spend this money just to spend it. So this could be an opportunity. We just got to figure out how hard we want to go in on this. And, and like I said, I'm not an investor, so, is this something that TD would be taking care of more, or any bank, or whatever bank we go
It doesn't
through?
have to be TD, but it would have to be, for instance, I spoke with Partners. Is it Partners?
Yes.
Partners Bank. They don't offer these services. They don't have an investment arm in the bank. This is a service that a large bank would offer. And basically, the segment of the bank that is doing this is called their private wealth division. This is where people with, substantial sums will turn their money over to the bank and say, here, construct a portfolio with me. So it's those people at the bank that are going to be doing this. They do it also for cities and towns. So this is something they do in a variety of other settings. And when I looked at the web, it's not unusual that towns do this. But I think correctly, they're being very conservative about how they do it. I think David's absolutely right, that this will shine a light on what are these cash reserves? What are they there for? What is our long-term intended use for them? And I think through this budget cycle, we'll get a better understanding of how that might be used. I wouldn't rush it. I think until we know what the reval is going to look like, and people's tax rates the tax rate is probably going to go down, I would imagine, but the budget costs are going to go up. People are going to be, some people are going to be finding a decrease in the tax bill.
got the
Others are going to.
65 and older tax freeze that come in
That's
there.
another
We
good
gotta
point.
account
This
for
new
We
state of
may
Maine.
end up having to fund that eventually
Yeah.
too, right?
There's a lot going on right now, but so I think putting this aside, making sure we're getting a decent return on it, and I think it will help to illuminate, well, what's truly available beyond what we need, and then what are we going to do with that? And that's something that I think we need a lot of input from personally, I think a lot of input from the community. Because after all, it's residents' funds.
I'd rather the money be utilized doing something like that than just sitting there
Yeah.
doing nothing.
So
So,
we need to start working on an investment policy
So
first.
I'll send you, we can consider other banks to do this. The fee that TD Bank is going to get for this is really modest. I mean, they charge basically, if you get like a return on the bond of 4.5%, we'll end up with 4.49%. They'll be taking that 1 basis point as a fee, which is, my experience, it's a really good deal, and you're getting them to manage this for you. So we need an investment policy, and I'll show you one I got, and ultimately, we ought to make sure council looks at that to make sure that we're doing everything appropriate.
We don't have to go to town meeting for this, correct?
There's no
I don't believe
indication.
so. I haven't seen anything, but council can tell us if we
Yeah,
do.
that's one
Well,
question I want to make sure that we ask and make sure that we don't have to get town approval to invest the money.
No, if you read the full response from Maine Municipal,
I can see it in there.
Yeah.
it wasn't, they would have, to me, they would have clearly done that.
So,
So that's the first step, the
yeah, that's the
policy.
first step. So I have a proposal from TD Bank. I'll share that with you I think you,
That was
did I
my
send you that
question.
as
Do
well?
you have
You've got
something?
that, okay.
Try to find a couple,
Yeah, we'll see if we can find some other banks that'll do it. I don't know, I'm not that.
TD's huge.
Yeah, TD, but they're primarily a Maine bank, aren't they?
No.
No, they're all up and
No,
down
I
the
mean, but
East
their
Coast.
home base was Maine, or it used to
No, I think
be.
it's Massachusetts.
Huh?
They're a Canadian bank.
They're a Canadian bank. Well, let's find a Maine bank if we can.
Because it used to be
man.
TD
Yeah,
North.
All over Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah, well,
everywhere.
I know they are, but for some reason I thought they were Maine, but my mistake. Let's see if we can't find a quality Maine bank that does this. I don't think we're gonna do any better on, I think the fees are gonna be very competitive. So, we don't have to worry about the credit quality of the bank, because the underlying securities are there. And these monies can be accessed by the treasurer. So it will be working much like it does with Partners Bank today. We'll be able to set up, an ability to transfer funds. And I've talked about the security on it, and I think it's quite good, so. All right, so we're working on this. Any other comment before we?
Nope.
Any comment from the public? Okay, great. Accounting services. Last year, we went through an RFP process for a new auditor. And as part of that process, we ended up calling a number of firms to find out what their interest was in providing accounting services or not. And we came across one firm that used to provide auditing services, and they have moved now into a business of providing accounting services to towns. They will actually maintain the accounting records. They'll prepare the financial statements, all of the notes, so that they could then be turned over to an external auditor so that they could basically verify them and issue an audit opinion. So this would, I think, add, it would enhance the oversight the town would have over its fiscal affairs. I think by engaging a firm like this to provide services for the town. They would do all the bill paying. They would maintain the general ledger. What I really liked is they would do the budgeting. They do this for a number of towns in Maine already, this one firm. They would actually come in and manage our budget process, and we would use their general ledger that they have, not the one we're currently using. And they would work with our various select board, the warrant and finance committee, department heads to construct the budget and work us through a budget process. They also consult as part of this, as part of the engagement, where they will tell you, let's say we're looking at our reserve levels, our cash balances. Well, what's an appropriate level of reserves for the town to have? What are other towns doing with this? When they have more than they need, what are they doing with that? How are they reducing that over time? They could provide a service to us in helping us understand not so much but what we think our needs are, but what are sort of the best practices out there at other towns and municipalities in Maine and how they're handling certain activities. They would support us in our long-term capital planning, the work that these folks are doing. They would possibly pick up on that and end up preparing a capital budget for the town. So given the fact that there are a limited number of firms in the state that do auditing now for towns of our size, and I think a service like this could be very helpful for the town. And quite frankly, for someone like myself, I would find it comforting to know that we have another set of eyes looking at everything and also being in a position to provide advice to us as we're taking on any particular issue that may come up. So we have a proposal from a firm that came across last year in our search for new auditors, Barry, Talbot, and Royer. And I wasn't planning on going through this tonight, but I'd like to propose that we post this on our website. We've asked the principal, Mark Roy, to come to our meeting on February 1st and make a presentation on what they do. And so that everyone could hear about that, and then we could consider what the next steps are.
And also, we want to make sure that it's clear that we're gonna still have our treasurer.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
we have job duties that she'll be taking care of the payroll and all kinds of other stuff that we're gonna still keep our traditional, treasurer. We want to make sure that's clear.
Yes, absolutely. And we've been talking with her about this, so she understands it, and, I think quite frankly, she's fine with this. I think she's more than fine, to be honest with you. So, yes. Jim,
Kind of
does
quiet
this seem
tonight.
like a reasonable process to
Yeah,
try
it
to
does.
evaluate this?
I'm on board with this, yeah, definitely.
Well,
I
both Kim
do-
and I we've done a Zoom meeting separately, obviously.
Yeah, I just met
Separately.
last week with him.
And, the individual, Mr. Roy there, he was, he seemed right on point. He knew his stuff. I don't wanna look like I'm flip-flopping on my original, because this is something we kind of looked at last year.
Yeah.
But as time went on, our treasurer's doing a good job, but this is gonna take some responsibilities away from her, but with the responsibilities that we're keeping with her, I think this is gonna be a good mixture. And, this is gonna be an asset where she can call, you know, them, get some information. But I really thought, by, you know, I didn't meet him, I Zoomed him. It was pretty good.
I think having this all together and ready for the auditor too, because, I mean, just going through that process last year, we really, there were not many people that responded to us, you know, and we're waiting this year.
Yeah, and I
It's,
and
having it all together and ready, and then, you know, maybe we won't be behind.
say if we have issues next year with our auditor and service, it might be a little easier for us to,
If we had to find,
get somebody else to do it if we need be, because our books will be, you know,
They'll be pristine.
Well,
quite
well,
frankly.
but just to I mean, I'm hoping mistake, I mean, the
Well-
town had everything done by June
Yes.
30th. Well, I'm just
no,
saying,
right,
we
yes,
over
but
the
we've got a
auditor.
new treasurer.
Right,
This
but
is
it's
a
the
new-
auditor that hasn't done his part of the
Oh,
job. It's got
absolutely.
nothing to do
No,
with
no,
us to
not
bring
you.
anything
No.
over.
No, no.
Make that
it's the
clear.
auditor.
It's not our treasurer's fault.
I know,
This
but
is-
No.
This is an auditing issue.
Right, I
Yeah.
mean,
But-
we don't have the stuff not because we haven't turned it over. They came down, they did the field work.
Yeah,
They're not
absolutely.
waiting for us. Let's make that
No,
clear.
no,
For
we're waiting
example,
for them.
if, you know, we get to March, we ought to have a pretty good sense of how we're gonna end the year. This firm would provide a projection. They'll indicate, based on prior trends and where you are right now, this is where we think you'll end the year. And they can do that a couple times throughout the year. That's an information piece that I think is extremely important, especially as we're building the budget. So, I think there are just a lot of things like that we currently don't have the capability for that will be great to have. So, we've asked them in February 1st. And, you know, I'm gonna have a chance to listen to it and we'll see where this goes. Any public comment on this? Okay, well, thank you. Appointments.
What do we got here? All right, so we have two different ones, so I guess we can start with certificate of appointment. This is for Gary Rideout to the Capital Improvement Committee within and for the municipality of Acton until 6/30/2024, given under our hand this 11th day of January 2023. Make a motion.
Met with them, correct?
I did meet with him today, and he's been in town, I believe, about 5 years, retired Marine. You know, can't do much better than that. And very interested, I think, in getting involved in town government and contributing his services. So I think he'll be a great addition to that committee. And so I would endorse that appointment.
Before I second it, when we do these appointments, I know you met with them,
Yeah.
I kinda like myself, all of us, I really
Yeah,
think
all
we
of us
ought
to try to meet with them.
before we appoint too many
Okay.
more. For some reason, I don't know who it is.
Sure,
You know?
sure.
And, Kim might not either.
Yeah.
So.
No, I don't.
After these appointments here, I think we ought to all really
Fair
meet
enough.
with these
Yeah,
individuals.
because we had
Let's-
talked about
let's
that a
make
couple
sure we
weeks
do that,
ago.
okay?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
So, but
fine with
I'll-
me.
I'll second the motion.
All right.
Any comment? All in favor? Great.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be kinda nice to have a face and a name.
Yeah, I agree.
And our next certificate of appointment, Title 30A MRSA 2602, is for the Register of Voters, Jennifer Rue, within and for the municipality of Acton, until 12/30/2024, given under our hand this 11th day of January 2023. Make a motion to accept.
I'll second that.
Any comment? All in favor? All right, we're cooking with gas now. Pending, David or Jennifer, any update on West Shore Drive?
There is an email sent, I read it there, and, what's it, January 23rd? They're supposed to be, getting, the design for the culvert. For West Shore Drive.
Yeah.
And, oh, I can't remember. What's her name? Maureen.
Yes.
Maureen. We'll probably send her an email, see if we can get another update on.
Yeah, so based on, because we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
Based on that, we did send her an email asking her for a timeline of what she thought the
Great.
next several months and where the remainder of the project went, so we're waiting on that response.
Good, good.
But they are working on the design, engineering the culvert itself. The specs on the culvert.
Okay, all right, good. Good. So we seem to be on track for being able to move this along in
Yep.
the expected timeframe. Great,
I'll send it.
very good.
Oh, before we go too far, speaking of bridges, I did get a call from a Milton Selectman.
Yes.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay. Asked if the town administrator in Milton has contacted you, Jen.
Yes, several
Yeah,
times we've
he
gone back and,
has. Okay.
yeah, we've gone back and forth several times. You guys were gonna have a meeting.
Yep.
We were supposed to have a joint meeting. The reports went back and forth from their reports and our reports.
Yep.
And, at the last time, you guys decided to hold off on,
This was my, let me tell you where,
okay.
because I was the one
I just
that.
got a call, I just
Yeah,
wanna make sure that.
yeah. I was the one that stirred this up. And, you know, I had gotten the sense that the Hopper Bridge, that's what I'll call it. It's Row Bridge. Is it ROW?
E.
Oh, ROWE. Okay, that bridge was in need of replacement or repair or significant rehab.
Absolutely.
And the thought was that that's something we needed to engage the town of Milton in, because from my perspective, it seems like it's a shared bridge. I don't think they necessarily feel that, but I don't think we should concede that point at this time. Jennifer got a hold of reports from the state of New Hampshire on the bridge.
Everybody has.
Hmm?
Which everybody has.
Everyone has. And David, I'd love your opinion, or Kim. My read of those reports are, this bridge isn't that bad.
According to
I know
New
that anyway,
Hampshire.
No, I know, it. So I'm coming late to this. So, I said, well, look, I don't want to start a conversation with Milton. If, in fact, the state of New Hampshire doesn't think it's bad, the state of New Hampshire isn't going to put money into a bridge prematurely. So, you know, let's not start this up with them. But I wanted to talk with you about confirming that you think that bridge is in decent repair and not in need of immediate rehab.
I mean, when we had the bridge ranger come down, he pretty much said the same thing.
He did.
He said the same exact thing that Ben Foster, the other Foster, the
Yeah.
actual main man up in the state, when I met with him, said the same thing to me, that
Okay.
this bridge needs some minor repairs, some
Yeah.
bandages, this and that, but it's not something there that,
Okay.
you know, is gonna fail tomorrow morning, and it's really
No,
deceiving.
but we do need to, I mean, I am gonna say that, I mean, it's something that needs to be on our radar, that we need to think about. I know,
Definitely. It
I know
needs to-
New Hampshire isn't thinking about it.
But what our bridge ranger said, and what Ben Foster, when I was road commissioner, said the same exact thing, that this bridge needs repairs.
That's right.
It does not have to be replaced right now. Now, yes, it's gonna have to be replaced. We know it's already probably, if you go by the year span, you know.
Right.
It's gonna have to be replaced, but it's not something we have to do.
Tomorrow, which I know that,
Okay?
yep.
So we start putting away, start figuring out what we're gonna do, figure out whose job it is to take care of it, this and that, but it's not something we have to go, you know, hog wild on right now. So, you know, Adam, you know, he knows there's issues that, you know, gotta be fixed on it. But by going, the bridge report really, it was odd because, it would give you this rating,
Yeah.
but then the engineers come down and say, no, it's fine. So it really kind of stuck.
And there was no description, there was no definition of the scale they were using
Yeah.
of those ratings. It was rated
And
a
does each
5.
state
Is
have
that
a
good or bad?
different?
I don't know.
They're
Yeah,
probably
they're
not the
both different.
same,
No,
so.
they're both different. So.
This is gonna be fun.
Well, what got me interested on this, and, you know, maybe I got a little over the tips of my skis, was that I happen to know quite well the president of the state senate in New Hampshire, and I had a conversation with him about it. And I said, you know, how do you guys fund your bridges, and is this something that, you know, because Milton's not gonna wanna pay for this, and just like Acton's not gonna pay for this. I said, how do you go about doing this? He said that we do these things with Maine. And, you know, there's all kinds of money out there from the feds, from stimulus money and, you know, all kinds of resources. And he said, I'll help get Maine and New Hampshire together to get this money. But after seeing the bridge report, it feels like a non-starter. I don't think anyone's gonna get behind doing something to a bridge that their own state engineers are saying doesn't need to be replaced. So I'm saying, well, it's too bad, we may lose an opportunity, but
Well, I mean,
it's
it
just not
still
gonna
wouldn't be a
work.
bad idea to get a hold of Milton and get an idea of, okay, say we're gonna do repairs to it.
Yeah,
Are we gonna be responsible for all the repairs?
okay,
You know, still at the same time, we still ought to know, are they in or they out?
yeah.
You know, are we gonna brunt the cost of the repairs? At the same time, we'll figure out whether or not they're in on helping us fix it in the long haul.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
so we still really ought to meet with them and get on the same page, because if something happens to that bridge, say we have a 500-year event or something, that bridge washes away, we're gonna have to figure it out eventually, so we might as well start the
All
process
right,
now.
so, I guess it's back on, Jennifer.
I mean,
But
least we
we'll
could
stay
talk
away
about
from,
it.
we'll stay away from sort of an immediate opportunity to deal with the bridge rehab at this time. It's more,
New
we got
Hampshire's
this
a
bridge, we
little-
share it, we need to be thinking and planning long-term. We think we share it 50-50. We'll hear what they have to say, and we can take it from there.
Adam, were you present when the bridge ranger went over and looked at that bridge?
I was not there with him,
Oh,
no.
you weren't, okay.
I met with him here.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
we,
yeah, and Kim was there as well, yeah. And I asked specifically, is that bridge safe? And he said, yes.
yes, yeah, you know.
So, you know,
Cool.
okay.
Let me skip public, comment.
What'd we do?
Let's skip public comment.
We skipped public comments. We gotta do.
Oh, okay. Any other status on the civil engineering or website bids?
Engineering's not closed yet, we're working on the website.
Okay,
It's gonna
great.
take a little time.
Let's go back to public comment. Any public comment? I thought you got tired of sitting, Dennis.
No, I'm much circulation in my left leg, so it's just
okay.
standing out.
Yeah.
Hopefully I didn't make anybody nervous by me standing there for the last 10 minutes. Tom, you don't know this about me, and probably the rest of them do. I spent 7 years, I think it was, on the zoning board of appeals. And I spent 2 or 3 years on the planning board. And with the problem trying to get members we've had on the planning board, I'd be willing to finish out this year serving on the board to the end of June, just to help out. I'm pretty busy for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So if the board chooses to appoint me to it,
This is the planning board we're talking
yeah.
about? Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with it. If they choose not to, I'm fine with that too. But when you get back from vacation, because I'm too busy to do it for the next 2 or 3 weeks anyway.
So,
Okay.
do I take it you're submitting your nomination for the
Yes.
planning board?
Yes.
Very good, thank you,
Okay,
Dennis.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, did we, anything,
Discussing that, we're gonna wait till
I thought
2
we,
to 3 weeks.
I thought we'd
Yeah,
wait
wait.
at that time when we take it up, unless you have something you want to say, David.
We'll see what we get back.
Well, we've got
Yeah,
to
that's
call
what
out for
it'll be a few-
additional,
Well, the resignation just
and
got.
we have 3 openings.
Right, the resignation just happened, you just accepted it, so I will start advertising it
Right.
tomorrow.
Okay, very good.
If I may, Tom?
Yes,
When I made this decision, I knew nothing about this resignation.
Yeah.
I just knew they were looking for a couple of alternates on the planning board, and I was just
thank you,
offering to fill a chair. Thank you.
thank you.
I appreciate Mr. Long's wanting to jump in and bail out the planning board, but I got several phone calls after that last public hearing, and, you know, people, the fence, I don't use that word, 'cause it's kinda like, but some of the remarks Mr. Long made at that meeting about taking so long to do this and do that, and pretty much they felt that they were being chastised. And, I have no interest in putting Mr. Long on that, after he gave them, all the, I don't know what you wanna call it, but chastise them for taking so long on a large project that got going on here. I thought that was unprofessional myself, and I would not put him on that board after he said what he did to those board members, and I don't know if that individual resigned for what reason, but who knows? Maybe they don't like the idea of a member that said that they've been on that committee, that board for so many years, and this isn't being done right, and that ain't done right, and then jump up and say, hey, I'll take his spot for him. Nah, I'm gonna look for somebody else to be on that board, thank you.
Well, you haven't done and found anybody in 2
Nope,
years.
no,
Okay.
that's where I'm rolling. The other two selectmen do whatever they want, I'm just telling them, give them my opinion.
Okay,
Want to go through the announcements?
please.
All right, so January 18th, we got a select board meeting at 6. On the 19th, we got a planning board at 6. 21st, Mary Grant at 2. January 23rd, Capital Improvement Committee at 5 PM. 23rd, Conservation and Forest Committee at 6 PM. 25th, Select Board at 6. And the 28th, Rec Committee, 9 AM.
Very good. I think that concludes the agenda.
I'll make a
Motion to
motion.
adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Have a safe trip, Tom.